Good morning, everybody. Yep, another beautiful day. So, I know we've all met that one guy that has like a pretty poor install. You know, it's like the first like clue. Like everything's just not on point, you know. But he wants to, he likes to brag like about his shit, and he's like, man, that gain on the amp is only halfway up. Like that actually means something. Yep, we've all met that guy, you know. The gain's only halfway up, insinuating that it would be louder if he just cranks the gain up. And then there are the people that just genuinely want to know, like, hey, I bought a Taramps MD8K or 12K, and they don't like anything over 2 volt input, but my N-dash is 4 volt or 5 volt, etc. So I got to get another N-dash. Nope, no. I'm gonna explain a little bit of this, First off, we're going to talk about, gain only halfway up guy. What the gain is for on the amplifier is to match the head unit's output signal, or DSP, or line driver, or whatever you have between the two. But we're just going to pretend there's nothing between the two. Now, back in the day, like when I first started messing around with this, it was rare to have like a 2 volt or 4 volt output head unit. They did have them, but they were like, relatively new, pretty expensive compared to the low output junk. But anyway, let's just say, you got a 500 amp, 500 watt, and it doesn't have a gain on it. And you have one of the low output, like back, when I first started messing with this stuff, I don't even think we got a volt out of a head unit. And what an amplifier's job is to amplify the signal that it gets in. So whatever is coming in through the RCAs, it amplifies into more wattage and sends out. Now, let's say you got the old head unit, that's under a volt, and the amplifier is 500 watt and doesn't have a gain. So let's say, we're not going to count rise in, but say to the amplifier, you just hook it all up, turn it on, it puts out 500 watts. At full tilt on your head unit, you turn it up, it puts out 500 watts. Now let's say you hook up a 4 volt head unit to it. It doesn't have a gain. What it's going to do is go straight into clipping when you turn it up, and it's going to blow your sub or amp or whatever. That's what's going to happen. So that gain is there for you basically to turn your head unit up to where it's clean, and then you can like adjust that gain knob to match the output of the head unit so that you get a clean signal. That's what it's there for. Now, with that being said, that's basically all your gain is there for, because some head units put out like lower voltage than others, and there's a lot of things on the head unit that come into play, like whether or not you have the bass level up high, whether or not you have loudness turned on. All these things play a factor in where you set that gain knob on the amplifier. Because you can be set clean with your head unit flat, but then you can just go in, and this would even work on a mids and highs amp. If you turned up treble or turn loudness on, you're changing the voltage going through the RCA cable. So yeah, you have to readjust the gain every time you make a change on the head unit. Now, for the flip side of this, for the guys that have the Taramps, and they're worried because they have like a Sony 6 volt output head unit. The same thing kind of comes into effect. yeah, the amplifier doesn't like anything. Like, I believe my Taramps MD8Ks did best around like 1.8 volt of RCA voltage. Guys, y'all have nothing to worry about. Just turn your subwoofer like level to the middle and leave your bass alone and you should be fine. Most head units, if they're rated at 4 volt output, they're not going to do 4 volt until you're like almost all the way up on volume, subwoofer level almost all the way up. Sadly, that's just the way it is. You know, I run a Kenwood and I think it's 5 volt. And with everything just set pretty damn flat, I was only getting like, I think a little over 2 volt all the way up. I just picked a lower number, you know, to, I have a number that I really like to demo at, and I like to have a number on my head unit that's max. So at a volume 35, I set everything at 32. 32 was like perfect RCA voltage for Taramps. And, that put me like right around the 1.8 something volt. So yeah, everything worked out. I didn't really have to turn subwoofer level up or down. I didn't really mess with bass on the head unit. I believe it has bass boost and everything, but I only stayed in the old easy menu, you know, because I don't really need to get into the DSP type settings in there because I have a DSP. But anyway, that's, you know, what you need to know about the old gain knob and your head unit RCA voltage. Now, a lot of guys are like, how the hell do I test my RCA voltage? It is very simple if you have a multimeter. And I'm not talking like you go to AutoZone and buy a $10 multimeter. Most of the cheaper multimeters, they don't like testing anything under 5 volt. They don't like reading it. There are lots of perfectly good multimeters out there that are relatively affordable without having to buy a fluke. Myself, I have a Southwire brand and I really like it. Klein is another really good brand, but you know, if you spend 40-50 bucks, you should be able to get a decent multimeter that'll read down that low. I could be wrong. Inflation is going like crazy here recently, but like my Southwire, it's not a super expensive multimeter, and that thing, like, it'll read millivolts. But anyway, take your multimeter, you put it on AC voltage, which is the line that's shaped like this under the V, you know. Now, DC voltage, like car voltage, is going to have the straight line and the dotted line under it. So anyway, we're going for the worm line. Okay, now that we got that squared away, you adjust your head unit where you want it. You know, the volume you would normally like go at full tilt to set the gain. Bass knob, you're going to roll that up if you have one. And you're going to take the red terminal of the multimeter and you're going to stick it on what looks like the little penis coming out of the RCA. You're going to stick the ground on that ring, you know, the circle, and you're going to look at the meter, and that's going to tell you your voltage output of your head unit. Like I said, if you're running Taramps and you're wanting to stay around that 1.8, 1.9, you're going to go back there and check. And if it's a little low, you know, around the 1.4, 1.5, you're just going to go into your subwoofer level setting on the head unit and you're going to turn it up a click. Test it again. Turn it up a click. Test it again until you get to that 1.8, 1.9 mark. Now, if you're too high, like if you're at 2.4, you're going to turn subwoofer level down until you get where you want to be. That's pretty much all there is to it. If you're running Korean amplifiers, they don't give a crap. They don't care. Suppose they do better the higher the voltage. I have no clue. I had Taramps in my Jeep and I had everything set, you know, around that 1.8 mark. And when I went to Korean amps, I didn't change anything at all. I just plugged the RCAs in and set the gains. So I've never turned my head unit or subwoofer level up. I don't see a need to. I mean, you know, if I had the old school head unit that put out millivolts, or I was putting out millivolts, it would be a good idea to turn it up. But being, you know, right near that 2-volt mark, I don't really see a problem with where it's at, so it don't matter. But anyway, guys, I hope this video helps somebody, because, you know, we've kind of explained that the guy that's like, man, my gain is only halfway up. We explained that he ain't gonna get no more power if he does turn it up. And we've kind of discussed, you know, the old Taramps input voltage and what you can do, because no, you don't need a new head unit, but a lot of people think that they do. So anyway, guys, y'all have a great day. Peace out, guys. And as always, bass on.